Hi everybody, and thank you so much for joining me. My name is Pearson, and I'm the Director of Education here at Gammill, and I'm coming at you live from Columbia, Missouri. I'm here at the Statler Stitcher Studio, and I'm going to take you through what's new in Creative Studio 7.0. I'm really here to take your questions. We've had a lot of questions regarding the install. Am I good with sound? Am I good? Okay. We've had a lot of questions regarding kind of what's new, how to work some different features. So I'm really here to answer your questions. We have Liz from Statler Technical Support behind the camera, and she's going to read me the questions as they pop up, and we're going to kind of go over them. So this is your time to ask me questions. It's just you and I, and we can work through it all together. So whenever you're ready, start answering questions, start asking questions, and I'm just going to start working through the software as we go. So Liz, do we have any questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me go ahead and just kind of start working through. I'll start at the top of the screen and make my way down, and then if you have questions, we'll go from there. So as you can see, with Creative Studio 7, we have completely overhauled the software. Okay, we went with a nice monochromatic red look, and so we're going to start at the top with the new icons. So at the very top here, this nice red strip is what we're going to call the menu strip. Okay, so when you're reading through your manual or ever checking anything out, the red strip is referred to as the menu strip. Okay, and this next strip underneath the red strip is your tool strip. Okay, and both of those, the menu and the tool strip, can be completely customizable. So if I right click anywhere on the red strip, which is your menu strip, or your tool strip, you can see that I get a box. Oh wait, maybe, there it is. And it says customize interactions. So I can customize the menu or I can customize the tool strip. So let's look at the tool strip. So I've left clicked on customize tool strip, and now I'm in the customize my interaction bar window. So what I can do is on the left hand side of the window, I have my available buttons, and right here are my current buttons. So what's under the current buttons is what is currently on your tool strip. And what's under the available buttons is what is available to put on the tool strip. So, and underneath the available buttons, they are alphabetized, so you can find easily what you're looking for. So to move something that's in the available buttons into the current buttons, there's a couple different ways. Let's say, for instance, I want to move, let's do this first one, the base sewing. I want to move this into my current buttons on my current tool strip. So I can left click and hold on this base sewing, and I can drag it anywhere in the tool strip that I want. So let's just say I want it in the middle of start quilting and restart quilting. So I've left click and hold, I'm going to drag it over, and I'm going to drop it. Okay, and so as you can see, it went above the start quilting. So if I want to just drop it down, I can press this down arrow right here, and you can see that it moved down into the position that I want.
Saving a newly created pattern or modified pattern.
The what?
The icon for saving a new or created pattern or modified pattern, which would be the place of the car, the export.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. So let me finish up the tool strip and then I will get to that question. So I have my newly designed tool strip right here, and I can save this if I'd like as my own tool strip under right here where it says save layout as a preset. So if I left click in that box, I can type in, for instance, and say my tool strip. I can save the layout, which is right here. And you can see that it is now under my user saved presets. So I can use that preset over and over and over again as much as I'd like. The cool thing about saving your presets is a lot of people work in standalone mode. And for those of you that don't know what standalone mode is, it is when you have a version of Creative Studio on your standalone laptop. So your own laptop, your home laptop, your personal laptop, or your computer. And so what you can do is you can sit down on the couch and design your tool strip however you want it to look. I have a tool strip that's completely different than what's up here, but I've designed it on my standalone laptop, and I actually exported my presets and then came over to my Stitcher and imported them in. So I think that's a really cool feature that you can move these all around whichever way you'd like and put a lot in there if you'd like as well. Also make sure whenever you change anything that you hit use this layout so it will take effect up here. Okay, so the question that was asked was how do I save a pattern that I have modified? Is that correct, Liz? Okay. So let's drag this tree pattern onto the screen. I'm just going to open this up. Okay. So let's say that I've gone in and come into my nodes. Move that way up there. Okay. So that's my modified pattern. So I want to save that as a pattern in my pattern database so I can use it over and over and over again. If I right click on the pattern, I can come down all the way to the bottom where it says Save Pattern. I'm going to left click on that, and I'm going to get a new Save Pattern box. Okay? So in the Save Pattern box, I have a picture of the pattern that I've just modified, changed, designed, and I can save it to my database, which is my whole pattern database inside of Creative Studio, my project, which is in my project tab, which we'll get to, and then I can save it as an actual file. So it'll save as a GQP file. The pattern name, the original pattern name, will be displayed in the pattern name section, and you can change it to whatever you'd like it to be. And then you can also choose what type of pattern that it is, because now in CS7 we can tag our patterns with keywords, collections, and types to make the searching a little bit easier. So you can choose what type it is, you can add your keywords and your collections, and I think what's also really cool with the Save Pattern is that it also brings in those keywords and those collections from the previous pattern that we changed, which I think is really nice.
She wants an icon to put on the tool strip like the car in CS. She doesn't want to have to right click.
Okay. And then it also shows the parent pattern for what has been changed. Whenever you're done with that, you can hit Save and Close. So you were saying what?
She wants an icon rather than having to right click and Save Pattern.
Okay.
Because of the car in CS.
Gotcha. Okay, so the question was about, there used to be in CS6, you could right click, go down to export pattern, or on the side of your tool strip, you could click the little car to export the pattern. We don't have an icon for that in CS7. We right click and go to Save Pattern because we're technically not exporting the pattern anymore. But that is something that we'll definitely jot down and we can look at in the future. Okay, any questions, Liz? Good? Okay. Good to do. Okay. So let's go ahead and we talked more or less about the menu and on the tool strip. I can also show the menu strip. So if let's right click on the menu strip, customize the menu, and you can do, what you can customize the tool strip, and you can also customize that menu. You have those available buttons and those current buttons, and you can also have a saved preset for that as well. And those are two different sections. So if you change them both, make sure you're saving both of those because they don't save in the same place for the menu and the tool strip. Use this layout. So if there aren't any questions yet, let's go ahead and move on to the Pattern Manager. Okay, the Pattern Manager is probably the biggest change in Creative Studio 7.0, and I think that's probably one of my favorite changes that have taken place. So in the Pattern Manager, as you can see, it's displaying all the patterns that I have imported into my database. So if I come up into my Pattern Manager, we're going to kind of work our way from the top to the bottom. So there is a little gear icon right here, which is your pattern display settings. So if I left click on that, there we go, maybe, there we go, move my mouse, yay, okay. So in my pattern display settings, I can display the actual pattern size that I want to see in my Pattern Manager. So it's going to come standard at medium, but let's say that I want to see them at a much larger scale. I really want to see the pattern. So I can left click on large. And you can see that the patterns are going to enlarge where it's going to be 3 per row. And I can have them much larger as I scroll. Let me click on this again and come back to the pattern preview size. And let's say I want to go to a smaller pattern, a smaller size pattern. So I'm going to left click on small. And you can see that the pattern display in the actual Pattern Manager, or the tiles are a lot smaller, so you can see more of your patterns at one time. Let's come back into medium. There we go. Or let's do large, it's probably better for the camera. Let's do large. Okay. So the next thing underneath the pattern preview size is show pattern name. Okay. So as many of us know, some of the patterns that we purchase, the name doesn't really correspond with what the pattern actually is. Okay. So if I left click on the show pattern name, if I uncheck it, you can see that the names are now gone, and it gives a little bit more real estate for the pattern. So you can keep it on or off. This is all personal preference. So what's great about CS is you can make it very unique to you. So the next thing underneath the pattern name is the show start and ends. Probably also one of my favorite things built into CS, the start and ends and the jumps. So as we can see here, that the green dots are where the pattern is starting, and the red dot is where the pattern is ending. So you can choose to have those on or off right here in the pattern display settings. Underneath the start and ends, we can see where it says show jump stitches. So a pattern, like for instance right here, there are 2 blue dots. So it's showing that there are jump stitches in that pattern. And I think that's really cool because sometimes we get patterns that we don't know how many jumps are in them until we physically start quilting it. But now with CS7, our pattern manager will show us where the start point is, where the end point is, and if there's any jump stitches in the pattern. The next 2 things are going to be sort alphabetically. So sort alphabetically is going to sort the patterns in the alphabetical order that they have, okay, that they've been given when you imported them in, or if you change the pattern name and the pattern properties. What's funny, Liz? Liz is laughing at me.
OMG, it's Corey Pearson.
Oh. Underneath the sort alphabetically, we have sort newest first. So if I click on sort newest first, left click on that, that's going to show me, ooh, those are fun, it's going to show me what has been imported in newest. And these are some of our test patterns that we have that we've imported into the software to play with. So you can sort the newest first or alphabetically. I like to sort newest first because normally when I import a pattern, that's the pattern that I want to use right then. So if I have sort newest first on, it's going to show me those newest, newly imported patterns first, so I don't have to go looking for them. Okay.
Karen says you can save a pattern from the file menu too. Karen says you can save a pattern from the file menu too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Karen. Yeah, we have the save pattern as. Yep. There we go, sort newest, here we go. Okay. So, there we go. And this mouse, we're not getting along today. Okay, there we go. So underneath the sort newest first, we have show favorites first. In our pattern manager, we can now favorite patterns. So see what our favorite patterns are. So I'm going to kind of scroll way down here, and I'm going to say that I really like these airplanes. So if I right click on the airplanes, I can come to add to favorites, which is my second option. And you can see that at the top left of the pattern, I now have a nice little star. So if I press the search icon, this little magnifying glass right here, to research for everything, you can see that the airplanes have now been moved to the front because I have show favorites first on. So it shows my favorited pattern shown first.
Could you go through the process of purchasing a new pattern and putting it into CS7 and where it will show up?
Yeah, of course. Let me go into to purchase a pattern. So first thing I want to do is to purchase a pattern, we have to have a cloud account. So right here is a little avatar, and it's our Gammill account. So I want to left click on that, and I'm going to log into my account. So give me just a second. There we go. Okay, so I've now clicked on the store tab, which is right here, and these are going to be all the patterns that I have excuse me, in the store. Okay, so currently there are 3,423 patterns for sale in the store, and I can search for patterns the way I'd like them. So if I say that I want to look for a pattern, a baby pattern, and enter that in. And it's going to pull up all the ones that have either baby in the title, were tagged with the words baby, have keywords, anything like that. So I can find whichever ones that I want just by scrolling around. And I'm going to say that I like this ABC pattern, this very first one, the ABC, ABC E to E. So I'm going to left click on that. And so that one is actually by Karen Farnsworth. And so well, that moved a lot closer than I thought it would. In the pattern purchasing window right here, we have stitch out user and we have stitch out machines. So the stitch out user is going to encrypt it to my user cloud account. The stitch out machines is going to encrypt it to the machine number. Okay, either the red key or the controller number. It's going to encrypt it to that. So to only stitch it out on the machine. So I'm going to purchase one of these patterns. So just left click on the option that you would like. Okay. Whenever you do that, you're going to get a success message that it was added to the cart. And I know it's a little harder to see on the screen, but whenever you add something to your cart, there is a faint cart picture that shows up under the ones you've added to the cart. So they show that they're kind of added into the cart, so you don't have to go guessing and looking back in your cart thinking, maybe did I get that one, I don't remember. It has a little image kind of behind it. Once you have figured out whichever ones that you would like, the second icon from the gear is a little cart icon. It's going to have the number of patterns that you have in the cart, so I only have one. So I'm going to left click on my cart, and it's going to preview to me what is in my cart. So I can come right here down to the bottom right and click checkout. Okay, and it's going to take me to the Pattern Cloud website to check out. It's going to show what I have. And then if you have any Pattern Cloud coupons, you can enter those in at this time, or you can go to the Checkout Now section. It's right down here at the bottom. I can either log in if I have a PayPal account, or I can check out as a guest. So I'm going to check out as a guest, but I'm going to turn this off real quick because I got to enter in some personal info real quick, so give me just a second. So you're going to enter in your things to your PayPal account that you would need. Liz, do we have any other questions while I'm working on this?
How do you receive cloud coupons?
So when it comes to the cloud coupons, those are things that either Gammill or the designers can, if they have any newsletters that they send out, any promotional things, that's when they send you out a cloud coupon code, and you would get it you'd get it via the newsletter, right? Good. Okay.
Newsletter, or it could come in your email, or we could post one on Facebook.
Okay, so Michelle just told me that it could either be something posted on Facebook, come through your email, or it could be coming through the newsletter as well. So different ones like that. Do we have any other ones, Liz, while I'm working on this?
Not at this moment.
Not at the moment, okay. Sorry, just give me just a second. Sorry, everyone. Okay. Thanks. Alrighty. Alright.
Diana says you're doing great.
Oh, thanks, Mom. Alrighty.
Do you have to be logged into CS7 via the cloud to purchase patterns?
You can actually purchase patterns on the Pattern Cloud website. Okay, so you can go to patterncloud.com, and I'm waiting on this thing to come through, and I'll open this back up. Okay, there we go. So you can go to the patterncloud.com, not the www.patterncloud.com, and that will take you to the Pattern Cloud website, and you can actually purchase the patterns from the Pattern Cloud website on your standalone computer or on the go when you're on the go. So, so as you can see, that the checkout has been completed. It's going to thank me for my purchase, and it's going to tell you that they've been purchased, that you can download them and import them in, or you can click sync directly in Creative Studio. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to minimize out of this, and I'm going to come right over here to my little cloud right next to the cart. Left click on that, and I'm going to click sync. It's going to check for a successful internet connection, and if I click start sync, it's going to begin the syncing process. Now I haven't synced my account to this machine just yet, so it's going to take a little bit of time. So if y'all have any questions in the meantime, fire them away and I will answer them.
After you buy a pattern, just on the pattern website, do you have to download? How do you get them into CS from there?
Which is what I'm doing right now. Same process. Yep. You're going to sync it into Creative Studio. You can also download it from the website. Let me open that up. You can see that there's a little download button right here. If you don't want to go through the full syncing process, you can press the download button and save it to somewhere on your C drive, and you can import it in. Over here. Yeah, I think I should probably do that. Just repeat the questions. Yeah. So I have 2,489 patterns, so it's going to take a little bit.
If you buy a pattern on site, does it show you purchased it if you go back later?
Yes. I can show you where that's at, why this is going. Let me actually download this too.
You're going to have to repeat the question.
Oh, yes, sorry. If you purchase the pattern on the website, does it show you if you made the purchase? And yes, it does show you that. Let me save this real quick. Okay. So right up here in the top right, when you're on the website, there is a little person with the globe behind it. It's the second icon from the left. And if you click on that, it's going to say My Cloud. And all the way down at the bottom, it's going to say Pattern Store, and it's going to have Store Receipts. Okay? So if you left click on Store Receipts, it's going to show the purchases that you made, when you made them, and if you click on them, it'll show you what was made in that purchase. So for instance, this one that I just made today, if I click on it, it shows which one I purchased.
What's the file format that these patterns come in?
Okay. The question was, what's the file format that the patterns come in? When you purchase from the Pattern Cloud, they're coming in the GQP format, which is the format for Creative Studio 7.
Can you import a design when it's, how can you import a design when it's not in a QLI format?
Okay. So the question was, how do you import a design when it's not in a QLI format? Let me see here. I think that's going to still go for a second. Can I still do this in the background?
Mm.
Yeah, I can show it. Okay. So right over here, if there's a little paper icon when I'm under the Patterns tab, okay? So there are two options. The first one is Import Patterns. So import patterns is if you're importing an individual pattern at a time. So let's say there's one or two that you've downloaded and you want to import individuals at a time. You're going to left click on the little piece of paper and go to Import Patterns. Now if you have folders of patterns, like for instance if you're just moving from CS6 to CS7, most of your patterns were probably stored in a bunch of folders. So you can click Import Pattern Folder where it does a bunch of patterns at one time all in that one folder. So I would come to, let's say, Import Patterns, and I can look on my C drive like I used to and find where it is. That one the one I just got was right here. So I went to my Downloads folder, I've clicked on this one, I can left click on Open, and you can see that it's going to display the pattern that I've got right there. If it has a green check mark on it, that means it's going to import it in successfully. Now there also is, they might be grayed out, and that means it's a duplicate pattern. So when you're importing patterns into the software, the great thing about the Pattern Manager is that if you have duplicates of a bunch of different patterns, because I know I do, I have them stored everywhere, that if you try to import it in, while it's pulling in that information, Creative Studio is going to run through your database and see if you have any duplicates that have already been imported, and it won't allow you to import it in again. So you don't have to worry about having multiple copies of the same pattern in your database. So once it's displayed, we can hit Import Selected or Import All. Okay. It's going to say that the import is complete, and to go ahead and close the screen. Let me sort my newest first. And you can see there's that new pattern. So you can import in a QLI file, a GQP, a GQPX, a CSQ, a DXF, a PAT, and a CSQX. That's all of them. Yeah. So you can import all of those into the database by using the import pattern function. Any more questions, Liz?
The CS7 use file names to avoid duplication.
CS7, it looks at the file name, but you can get a lot of patterns that are named the same thing. Oh, sorry. What was the question again? I want to repeat the question for them.
Does CS7 use file names to avoid duplication?
Okay, so the question was, does CS7 use file names to avoid duplication? So it does look at the file name, but Creative Studio, when it's importing in, is going through and looking at the pattern by vector basis. So it's going to see if it's in the exact same copy as the one that you have. If there's anything different in that pattern, no matter if this name is the same, it will allow it to import it in if there's anything different when it comes to the vectors of it. Another question?
All patterns are safe in the cloud, right?
Yes, the patterns are securely safe in the cloud on the Gammill server. questions? No? Okay, I think my stuff's almost done. Oh, it's still downloading. How are we doing? Good? Okay.
I'm getting a thumbs up.
Yay! Okay, so let's go ahead. I went through the display settings. So
Hand guided, is that run with belts on or off?
Okay, so the question was for hand guided mode, is it ran with the belts on or with the belts off? And that's a really good question, actually. You can run the machine hand guided with the belts on. Okay, if you do that, I recommend that you have it in Power Assist. So what Power Assist does is it kind of loosens up the belts a little bit to allow you to gradually move the machine more or less like it was an original freehand machine with the belts on, so you can still use your channel locks. So let's see, right here under Stitch, the very top, you can come down to this, the option at the bottom. It says Power Assist, okay? And mine says Power Assist off right now, but if I left click on it, it will turn the Power Assist on, and when my belts are connected, I can freely move the machine, okay? Now, if you'd also like to drop the belts and get a true feel for the machine without the belts on, you can. The only thing is you do not have those channel locks when you do that, okay? But you can still take advantage of the stitch regulation, the constant, the base, and also if you want, you can do the record feature as well, because it's going to pull it from the encoders, not just the belts. You have another question?
I have a new Statler Stitcher, and I have the edge-to-edge part down. I want to learn how to do custom borders and blocks. What resources do you suggest that they use to learn custom borders and blocks?
Okay, so the question was, what resources do I suggest for custom borders and custom blocks? So when it comes to blocks and borders and corners and blocks, fairly soon, probably within the next 3 to 4 weeks, I'm going to start releasing my Back to the Basics series, which is from what a lot of you know me from. My Back to the Basics series was a series on YouTube that I did with Creative Studio 6, and I went over and did edge-to-edge, repeat patterns, borders and corners, custom blocks. So I'll be doing the same thing for CS7 coming up soon. As of right now, there are many retreats around the country that are going and talking about CS7. There's online tutorials. Also in your manual, we have a lot of YouTube videos that go over and show you more or less how to do those blocks and borders and corners. Have another question?
Do I need to calibrate my Statler once loading CS7 before starting to quilt?
So the question was, do I need to calibrate my machine when loading CS7 in order to start quilting? Yes. When you install CS7, the first thing it's going to have you do is choose what controller type you have. Okay, and the controller type can be found on a sticker on the front of your controller or the side, depending on which one you got. And it's going to ask you then to calibrate the machine. So you're going to take the bobbin case out, take the thread out of the needle, and you'd bring your machine, and it's in this, these are in the instructions that show up. You'll bring your machine to the middle of the table, as close to you as possible, and you'll begin the calibration process. But yes, you will calibrate your machine for it. It's recommended that you calibrate your machine every time you upgrade softwares, but that should be the first thing that it does when you're connected to your machine and install the new software. Good?
Someone wanted to know how, when it adds patterns with, or when it comes up with patterns with the same name, does the pattern come in with the exact same name, or does it give it a new name?
Okay, so the question was, if a pattern has the same name and you go to import those patterns, does it import it in with the same name? And yes, it will. Because if it already has the name associated with it, it's going to import in whatever's associated with it, as long as the pattern has, the physical pattern itself is not is different from the other one.
If patterns are imported to CS7, will my PBM tags be recognized?
So the question was asked, if patterns are imported into CS7, will the tags that you've done in PBM be recognized? And yes, they will. So right here on the little paper icon, okay, where we go to import our patterns, if I left click on that, I can come all the way, almost all the way down, about midway down, and I can see import PBM database. So if you back up your database in PBM, save it to your desktop, somewhere in a folder, wherever you save those backups, you can import the database and you can go find that backup, and it will import those patterns in with those tags and collections that you have. Do you have another question?
Yeah, someone wants us to go over importing from a flash drive.
Okay.
Hang on for a second. Do you always need to have Wi-Fi available? As where my machine is located, it can be sketchy for the Wi-Fi.
So the question was, do you have to have Wi-Fi available in order to use Creative Studio 7. Some machines, some people live out in the little areas that the Wi-Fi isn't working as well. So in order to use Creative Studio 7, you do not have to have a Wi-Fi connection. Okay? I know there's been some speculation about that. You do not have to be connected to the internet in order to use CS7 or the Pattern Manager, the features in here. The only thing that the Wi-Fi is required for is if you'd like to take advantage of the cloud service that is available. So purchase patterns within Creative Studio or sync up back and forth from the cloud. That's what you would need Wi-Fi for. But other than that, you can still run your software just like we're seeing right here without Wi-Fi if needed. Do we have any other questions?
There's somebody who would like you to go over importing from a flash drive.
Okay. So
Liz is grabbing you a flash drive.
Okay, perfect. The question was asked. Sorry. The question was asked to show how to import from a flash drive, and Liz is actually grabbing me a flash drive right now with some patterns on it, so I can show you how to do that. So I'm going to move to the next question, but I will come back to that one.
Were there any enhancements made to the trim inside and trim outside features in CS7?
So the question was asked, were there any enhancements made to the trim inside and trim outside features in Creative Studio 7.0? What just happened? I think I hit something. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I hit a wrong button. So the enhancements to the trim feature, it's a little bit faster when it comes to clicking your points. I can show you that the trims themselves look a little different. So let me go into that real quick. So right up here is the new icon for trim. So this is actually a good question. Thank you for asking that. So it looks like a dotted square box with scissors, and it says draw trim. Okay. So if I left click on the draw trim, I can draw a trim with my mouse, or I can draw a trim with the machine head. So since I'm back here with the computer, I'm going to do it with the mouse. And let me actually get a pattern on the screen for us here. We'll use this one. Okay. So I come into draw trim. Oh, thanks Liz. So if I come into draw trim, like I said, you can draw a trim with the mouse or with the machine head. So I'm just going to left click some points around. Whenever I'm done, I can right click and right click again. It's going to save that trim. So you can see the trim looks a little different. It's got a nice thick gold dashed line with a yellow inside. Okay. And I can also just draw some more trims. Put some over here and show you a cool trick. Okay. So I've got 3 trims on the screen. And sometimes kind of a trick that this was in CS6 as well, that if you have a lot of trims stacked on top of each other and you want to get to one of them, sometimes it's harder to click right on that trim at that time if they're stacked on top. So if you use the letters I and O on your keyboard, you will see that it's going to put a highlight on the trim, and you can press delete on your keyboard to get to that exact trim that you want to see. Do you have any other questions?
Are you recommending that we import our entire PBM library at once, or just test the waters with a few patterns at a time?
That's completely up to you. Sorry, the question was that do I recommend to import the whole PBM database at once, or test the waters and import certain ones in at a time? That is completely up to you. I have done a couple installations for people with their PBM database, pulling in the whole backup, and I've had nothing but good results for it. So if you'd like, test the waters, import a few in, or you can import in that whole database at one time. Where did I put that flash drive that you just gave me, Liz? In my pocket, yay, okay. Alrighty, so I have a flash drive right here that has some patterns on it. So what I'm gonna do is, with Creative Studio open, I'm gonna go ahead and plug the flash drive into the computer. Okay. Okay, so when the flash drive is plugged in, you're going to get a message in CS7. It's going to say that it looks like you've plugged in a USB. Would you like to import patterns from this device? So I'm going to click yes. And it's going to show the patterns that are on the screen already. Now, as you can see, these are those grayed out ones I was talking about earlier. So it's showing that they are already in my database because it says already exist. So I can scroll through and see which ones are on. See which ones are actually on the flash drive, and it looks like all of these are actually already in my database, which is okay, but it shows you the concepts behind it. If you have any that have green check marks on them, go ahead and hit import selected, and it will import those in for you to add them to your database. And close out the box.
Is it recommended to put virus protection on your Statler when using the cloud?
Looking at Liz right now. The question was, is it recommended to put virus protection software on the computer when using the cloud? Please do not add any extra virus protection to these computers. It could possibly add a little interference with the connection between the computer and the controller, which the controller runs your machine. The Windows Defender software that is built into these computers, the Windows 10 Industrials or the 8s or the 7s, is good enough to work with this, because all you're doing when you're using the cloud is making a secure connection between your machine and the Gammill server. You're not going on the internet and looking up things on YouTube or checking your email. You're not doing that. You're just using that one thing to get that connection, so you don't need to add any extra virus protection software. You're good.
I have Windows 10. Can I load CS on my laptop?
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
I have Windows 10. Can I load CS on my laptop?
Okay. So the question was, a customer has Windows 10. Can you load the software on the Windows 10 laptop? And yes, you can. You can load Creative Studio 7 on a Windows 7, 8, or 10 computer. There might be some updates you have to do on a Windows 7 and a Windows 8 and even on a Windows 10 that need to be installed before it can be installed. But yes, you can put it on a Windows 10 computer. You got any questions right now? I'm looking at my team. No? Okay.
Oh, hang on.
Nope.
Is it possible to download CS7 to an Apple computer?
You can put CS7 on an Apple, but you have to have your hard drive partitioned, basically. So if you have an Apple, let's say, for instance, a software is Parallels that runs a Windows version of Windows on a Mac, you can go onto your Parallel software, your partition for your hard drive, and put CS7 on that Windows part. It will not run solely on the Apple platform, though.
Why can't I add designer information to the importing patterns?
Designer name.
Designer name.
Oh, importing into the designer name. Normally with the, let me pull one up real quick so I can see it.
It's not even an import, just like tags.
The tags in general?
Yeah. So why can't they add the designer name?
Add designer names and tag.
No.
Okay. So the question was, why can't I add designer tags or names, designer names, when importing in a pattern, or just on the pattern in general? On the pattern in general. Let me see what this one is. Yeah, you can. Okay. So what it's doing is, let me show you how we actually just got to where we got, because this will be a good thing as well. So I have a pattern selected. I'm going to right-click on the pattern, and I see the third option down is View Tags. So I'm going to left-click on View Tags and move it over into here. And right here, you can see the designer section, and you can't add anything into the designer section. It's kind of like grayed out. It will allow you to type something. It will allow you to think that you're typing something in, but it won't physically type something in, because there is basically like a block on it, so you don't take credit for another designer if you're typing in your information. But you can definitely put the designer name, like this one is, in the collection. So the collection has the designer's name right there, so you can still search by the designer name. And why I have this window open, I'm going to talk about some of these things. So if I right click on the pattern, go to View Tags, I can come in and tag the pattern with certain pattern types. Okay, so you have 8 different type classifications for a pattern in CS7. We've got edge to edge, we've got border, block, text, point to point, corner, move that other way, fill, and project. So you can come in and add different things to this. So I could say that the pattern that I'm using right there is the alternating leaves edge to edge, but I could also put that in a border if I wanted to. So I can left click on border, check mark it, and it puts a faint yellow fill behind it to show that you've added a change. And I can save that, and when I search for just border patterns, that one will show up. I can also add certain tags in, so I want to say that that looks like leaves, and I can press the plus sign and add that tag. I can also add, let's say, fall, add that one in, and I can even put it easy and add that one in. Once I've put in what I wanted to, I can hit save and close, just right here, which is very important. Left click on save and close, and it's going to save that information in. So if I come in to my pattern manager, go under my advanced search, I can look at the pattern type and say that I'm looking for a border pattern and that I want it to be easy. And there it is. So it pulled my tag for easy, and it also pulled the type for border. So, do we have any questions?
Should we take Windows 7 to Windows 10?
No. You don't want to go, the question was, should you take Windows 7 to Windows 10? And no, you don't want to go ahead and upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 10. You want to stay with what you're working on. The file type, when you're lost my train of words. When you're upgrading your software, your operating system, sometimes it's going to lose some of those files that are necessary for CS7 to run. So you don't want to add that on because it might mess up with what the files that are needed for CS7 to work. Any other questions? Let's see what we got here. And also, while they're looking up the questions, at the bottom of your screen, you have different reactions that you can use, like a thumbs up, a heart, a wow face, a happy face, a laughing face. If you see anything that you like, love, you can go and use your reactions so I can see those go across the screen. That's always fun.
There's still some questions about not being able to put the designer name, why they can't put the designer name in.
Okay.
So if we could just kind of go over that one more time.
Okay. So we're getting a few more questions on why the designer name cannot be added in. So I'll pull this one up into the tags. So when you look in the tags of the pattern, you see the designer section. And if the designer information is not built into the code of the pattern, it's not going to pull up into the designer section. You can't physically put your own designer name in there because it might not give credit to the right designer. So what I would do personally is under the collection section, you can put the designer name in the collection section. So it shows Karen Farnsworth, so it's right in there. I can put it in the collection, add it to the collections, and save and close. So when I do search for patterns by Karen, it's going to show me all of the ones that are associated with her collection name.
Once I import patterns without a designer name, when I sync, will a designer be added?
Yeah, okay, so the question was, once I import patterns without a designer name, when I sync, will the designer name be added? And yes, it will.
If it's
Okay, so yeah, it's kind of a two-part question. So yes, it will be added if that pattern, for instance, is in the pattern cloud, okay, or in the designer's account. If that'll pull that information and it will add it to the designer section. We're good on questions right now?
Seem to be at the moment.
Okay.
Your mom wanted to know about the menu icon. Can you show her how to use the menu icon?
The menu icon. Which one is the menu icon? Well, I know which one's, okay, wow, that sounded horrible. Which one's the menu icon?
I don't know what she means.
So Diana asked to show the menu icon, to look at which one, are you talking about the menu strip? Are you wanting to see how that's customized? Need a little further clarification on that question. Just to make sure I'm showing the right thing that you want to see.
Yeah. Can't read this one because it's gone. Can I?
You can scroll through them.
Okay, here we go. I have many patterns where the designer names show under designer info on the edit pattern properties. However, on the edit tags tab, the designer name is blank. Is there a way to sync the design data to both tabs?
Okay, I think I got the question. Okay, so the question was, the customer has many patterns that under the designer info in the pattern properties tab, it shows the designer's name, address, phone number, email, stuff like that, whatever's coded in. But in the tag section, it does not show, and they asked if there is a way to sync that information together. And as of right now, no, there is not. When it comes to the designer information, if you don't have a designer in the designer section and you're wanting to add that, I would add it into the collection section. And did we hear back on that menu question yet? No?
They would like you to show the help icon,
The help?
Help menu icon.
The help menu, yes.
There it is.
Okay.
Sorry, Diana.
So right here at the top right, you have a little question mark that says help, okay? So if we left click on help, you can see that my cursor, and it's probably harder to see on the computer, or on the video, but your cursor has a little question mark next to it now when you left click. And you can left click on whatever option that you have a question about. So let's say I have a question about circular arrays. So I'm gonna left click on that icon. And it's gonna take me directly into the manual where it talks about that specific thing that I'm looking for. It takes me right to that page. I don't have to go search for it. So I have that one, and I can scroll through and read about how to work, let's say for instance, the circular array function. Also, right here, there's a little video tab. If I clicked on the video, it will take me to the Gammill website, to their video library, and it will show me a video that talks about circular array as well. Ones that we've made for those certain pieces. But the help manual is really fun, and it's really interactive. So you can get in and kind of learn a lot more about the new CS7 software. So either you can click on this and click on whatever option you want to learn more about, or if you just want to get in the manual in general, double left click on the help, and it will pull up the beginning of the manual where you can start working your way through it. There are some, this is a question that I've got through a couple phone calls, that some don't have the question mark in their tool strip, okay? So first, if your resolution for your computer screen is really small, it might be kind of hiding down here. So there should be a little arrow right here that's a drop down, and you should be able to find the help icon. If that's still not there, you can right click, come to Customize Tool Strip, and it will be in one of the available buttons. In the available buttons section, you can drag and drop it into the tool strip wherever you would like.
Someone would like you to show border corner.
Show border corner? Okay. So I will do that. Let me get in here. And using my, I'm gonna go to simple search, that makes sense. So if I left click on advanced search, I can get a drop down section. And the question was, I'm sorry, it's hard for me to get used to. The question was, someone wants to see how border corner is done. So I've clicked on advanced search, and I can choose my pattern type. So I want a border and I want a corner. So I'm gonna left click on border, and I'm gonna left click on corner. And I can see all the border corner patterns that are tagged border and corner. So I'm gonna use these first two, the second two, the ironwork border and the ironwork corner. So I'm going to double left click on the border corner pattern. And here at the bottom left, there's also a lot of prompts as you work your way through the software. This is really helpful down in the prompt section. It kind of tells you where you're at and what you're doing. So at the bottom it says pattern such and such has been added to the project. I want to double click on the border piece, and you can see that that piece has been added to the project. So I'm going to come from my pattern database tab to my project tab. It's right up here. It's going to show all the patterns that I have in my project. And I'm going to add to those two border corner patterns to start my border corner. So I'm going to left click on the corner piece, hold Control on the keyboard, which is the bottom left key on your keyboard. I'm going to hold Control and click on the border piece. Okay. And once both of those are highlighted, I'm going to come to the border corner icon. Left click on that. Okay. And you can see that I've got an all new border corner setup tab that takes space on the right hand side of the screen, and it even has a nice directional picture showing you exactly where to click on the quilt. Okay. So you can do this with your machine head. I'm going to go ahead and click it with my mouse because my machine head is over here. Okay, so it's going to tell me to click the upper left outer corner, and according to my picture, it's going to show me with a star, upper left outer corner. I'm going to click the upper right outer corner. Okay, and see the star moved from the upper left to the upper right. Okay. It's going to ask me to click the lower right outer corner. So you can see the star move, so I'm going to come down to the lower right. Okay, it's going to ask me to click the lower left outer corner. Come over here to the lower left, click that. And as you can see, now the instructions have changed to the inner corner, and the star has moved into the inner section. So I'm going to click the upper left inner corner, the upper right inner corner, lower right inner corner, and lower left inner corner. Okay. Once that is done, it's going to ask me to enter in the border length. Okay, and the length section is right here. So you're going to type in the full length of the border. So I'm going to say that this border is 90 inches. 0. Now click enter on the keyboard, and as you can see, there we go, it's going to input in that border corner around for me, and I can begin stitching that out. So underneath the length, we can set our margins, and it's going to default to a 1/4 inch margin unless you change it in the controller definition. So the 1/4 inch margin is from the top and from the bottom of the pattern from the boundary. And then you can set the corner types. Some patterns have different orientations and different corner types, so you can come in and change those to make your border corner flow the way you want it to. Okay. And then at the bottom of the setup tab right here, we have OK, again, and cancel. So if I press OK, that means I am OK with everything that's in this setup tab. I'm happy with the changes that I've made. If I press again, it's basically going to take me back to square one, where I start clicking my outer and inner points again. And then if I click on cancel, it's just going to cancel me directly out of the function. So I'm going to just go ahead and click on OK. And now it has the ability for me to start doing my border corner. One thing that I would recommend, kind of one of those trick of the trade things that I've found over the years, sometimes you get those quilts that are not perfectly square. We all know which ones I'm talking about. That the borders, you know, the points that you click, it's just making a straight line from point to point that you click. Now some of those borders that you get are a little wavy, okay? So what I would do is I'd actually delete out this inner boundary. The outer one I'm not too worried about. It's this inner one with the seams that I'm really worried about. So I would delete out this inner boundary, and it is highlighted, a faint highlight of blue over it. So I'm going to press delete on my keyboard, and you can see that the inner boundary is gone. And what I would do then is come up here to draw boundary. Where's my mouse at? There it is. Left click on draw boundary, and I would take that machine and click multiple points all the way in the ditch of this border to make sure that there's no wave where this pattern is going to stitch into the quilt. Okay? And if there is, you would make some adjustments to the patterns, make sure your ends are snapped, and then you could quilt it out where it all flows nicely. Do you have any questions right now? Liz?
I think we're good.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and show the edge-to-edge feature, because that has changed. Okay? And if you have any questions, please type them in, and Liz or Michelle will let me know, and I'll get them answered for you. So I'm going to do an edge-to-edge now. So I'm going to grab an edge-to-edge pattern in my pattern manager. So I'm going to uncheck border and corner, because I used those earlier, and I'm going to look for an edge-to-edge pattern. So let's say I'm going to use this London one, because I like London. I'm going to double click on that pattern, and you can see at the bottom left in my prompt section that it's going to show me that it's been added to the project. So I can come back into my project tab, just right up here at the top, left click on project. I'm going to shrink down my pattern manager so I get some more screen real estate on my CAD screen. Left click on the London edge to edge, or whatever edge to edge pattern of your choice, and then go to the edge to edge icon at the very top. I'm going to left click on edge to edge, and as you can see, the edge to edge setup tab has changed as well. All the way down the right hand side of the quilt, or right hand side of the quilt, I'm sorry, right hand side of the screen right here. Also having that directional pattern with a star showing me exactly where to click on the quilt. Okay? So it's going to say click the upper left hand corner of my E to E. So I'm actually going to do that with the machine head. I'm just going to come off the screen for a second. Okay, it's going to ask me to click the upper right corner, so I'll move my machine to the upper right. It's going to ask me to click the lower right, and oh, that's a beautiful edge to edge. It's going to ask me to click the lower left. Yeah, I'm redoing that. That doesn't look too great. Okay, this is actually where these functions come in handy. So I'm going to go ahead and enter in the quilt length, 90. And I'm going to go ahead and, since I kind of messed up, and actually I did this on purpose, I'm going to go ahead and redo my boundary, because I clicked the wrong point with my initial click, and as you can see, those patterns are coming out. Okay, so I'm going to click again right here at the bottom of my setup tab, left click on again, And you can see it's going to take me back to the beginning. I'm doing this all over again, and I get my instructions back again to click the upper left corner. So this time I'm going to do it with my mouse. Click the upper left corner. It's going to say click the upper right corner. Click the lower right corner. And click the lower left corner. It's going to ask me to enter in the setup, enter in the quilt length in the setup tab. So I'll enter in the quilt length. Press enter. And as you can see, there is my edge to edge quilt with my pattern, okay? And now what's really, really cool and really, really fun about the new dynamic changes in CS7 is I can say, you know what, I really like this pattern, but I don't think it's going to work with the quilt that I have on my frame. So I'm going to quickly switch to a different pattern. So in my project tab, I have another pattern already. I'm going to left click on it, and you can see that it has dynamically changed it. Just like that, I don't have to go in, click extra points, click it all over again, get out of the tab. It's going to change it just right then. So I can switch between a bunch of patterns until I get the look of my choice.
Peggy wants to know if you like to chunk the sides of the border or if you turn the quilt.
Okay, so the question was asked, do I like to chunk the sides of my borders as I work down the quilt, or do I turn the quilt and quilt directly across? And the answer to that is I actually do, when I'm done quilting the top part of the border, the bottom part of the border, and everything inside, I do unpin my quilt and turn it, so I get a nice smooth, I guess if you left to right on the screen here, nice smooth direction for quilting, and I know that all the sizing is going to be correct, and I can get everything in that border the way I want it to. Okay, so back into the, excuse me, the edge-to-edge setup, I can see that these patterns are laying directly on top of each other all the way down, just like a line by line by line. And I probably want to alternate those, okay? So right over here, under set, repeats, and rows, I have an alternating section right underneath the rows. So if I left click where it says none, I can come to either plus a row on top or minus a row on top. I'm going to hit plus. And you can see, I don't know, can they see it on the screen easily?
Not easily.
Okay, so the patterns have shifted over one, so now it's an alternated pattern look as opposed to them being stacked right on top of each other. So alternating is a fun thing to do and play with. It might be easier with the London ones. Let me left click on that real quick. There we go. We come to alternating, plus one on top. That better? Yeah, okay, a little easier, okay. And you can see that's kind of alternated them around just a little bit to get a different look. Do you have any more questions?
I don't see any at the moment.
Okay. I'm gonna open up another quilt group. And let me show you where that's done actually. Right here at the top, kind of looks like your tabs in your internet browser. And to delete a quilt group, we can press this little X, and it will delete the quilt group, so get rid of what's in the quilt group. And if I hit the plus button, it's just going to add more quilt groups all the way across. So it's really nice. So if you want to add a quilt group to get a nice, fresh, clean working space on your CAD screen, come up right here and just press this plus, and it's going to add a quilt group. So I'm going to left click on this to add a quilt group. Okay. If I want to change the name of the quilt group, I can double click on the words quilt group, whatever the canned one that it gives you. And I can type in what I want to, whatever it may be. And then I can just left click on the CAD screen and it'll save that quilt group name. I really like to name my quilt groups because you can add in a ton of different quilt groups and you can have them all named so you can easily get back to whichever one you need to get back to. So we're going to look at the circular array function in CS7, which is a lot of fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use the new drag and drop feature as well. I'm just throwing a lot of new stuff at y'all today. I can left click on this border pattern and I'm going to left click and hold and I'm just going to drag and drop it onto the screen. Okay? I can easily drag and drop patterns directly onto the screen so I don't have to go in, add them one by one. I can just drag and drop them as I please. So I'm going to take this pattern and I have circular array up in my tool strip, so I can click on circular array. I can also go into the features tab up here and click on circular array, which is the third option. Or you can right click on the pattern and go down to circular array on there. Whatever you're most comfortable with. You can have it in your tool strip, up in your file menu, or right on the pattern itself. So I'm going to click on circular array. And you can see, well, that's a lot of them. Okay, so it had it in 100 copies. I normally don't use 100 copies to make something. So I'm going to lower this down just a little bit so it's easier for us to see. Put 10 in there, that's better.
The borders are blue.
So right here, as you can see, I can easily increase or decrease the count, and I'm getting an idea of what the pattern's going to look like when I'm done doing that. So let's say I'm going to increase the count, and you can see that it is slowly increasing them right onto the screen. I can decrease them, and as I decrease them, it's going to change what I see on the screen to the total number of counts. Okay? And so when it defaults, when you first get into circular array, it defaults in as connect, so where the patterns are connected if they possibly can be. So I'm going to actually uncheck connect, and I can grab this blue circle, left click and hold on it, and I can move around these patterns however I see fit. So you can move around and get a completely different look to whatever you want it to be. If I click connect again, it will reconnect them for me. I don't have to try and line them back up again.
Can you show us how to use the fonts, please?
The text feature, yeah. Okay, so the question was to show how to use the fonts or the text feature in Creative Studio 7.0. So let me show you how to do that. So right up here at the top, I have draw text in my tool strip, okay? I can go there to get to that. I can also go to draw text up in the menu strip. If I go to the draw function, I've got draw text at the very bottom. Or I can right click and come down to, I still have my pattern selected, that's right. There we go. Right click on the cat screen and come into draw text right here. Okay, so I'm going to go to draw text. And I can enter in whatever text I'd like. But I love my styler. Into the screen, okay. I can enter in the text that I want right here, and it's going to default as a block font, text type. I can come into the cursive text type, which is new, so connecting cursive. So if I left click on cursive, I can come in and it'll be the cursive font type. And it's always, going to look like this, these yellow and black dots until I hit OK. So I can choose whatever fonts I want, the text height, and so I can click OK. And you can see that it's going to put the font right on the screen. Now I have the text a little bit thicker so you can see it easier on the screen. It's normally not going to look this thick, but it's have a little easier for you to see on the screen. I'm also going to show, let me put a boundary on here real quick so you can see it. There we go. Give you that, and then let me get you an arc here. That'll work. Here, sorry, give me just a second, bear with me. Okay, so I've got this one. Okay, so I'm going to come into the text feature again, draw text. I'm going to type in whatever I like. So I've typed in, whatever I'd like to add in. Now, if I already have a boundary on the screen, so say you've clicked points on your quilt, so clicked points on the quilt for the block or for your sashing to add something in, I can left click on that boundary that's already on the screen, and you can see that it's going to automatically fill it as much as it can to fill up that boundary that you have selected. Okay. Now, also, if I drew a line, an arc, a curve on my CAD screen, I can left click on that arc while I'm still in the text function. You see I'm still in the setup tab here. Left click on this, on the arc, and it's going to place it on the arc at a curve. If I want to fill the entire line, I can come right next here to where it says text height, next to the height number, and left click on fill path. So if I left click on fill path, it's going to take just a second, and you can see that it's going to fill the path of whatever I have clicked on with that text. So there's a lot of fun things you can do with the new text feature. The possibilities are really endless with it. You can use the block, the new cursive, Under the blocks text type, there are a ton of new fonts in there that you can play with. And also another cool thing following this is right here under orientation, I can show that it's on the top of the line. I can click to put it in the middle of the line, which will take just a second. Or I can go on the bottom, so below the line. Left click on the below, on the bottom. You can see it's going to put it at the bottom of the line. So this kind of comes in handy when you're wanting to put like a cursive text or regular, probably a cursive text, yeah, that'd be the best, in a sashing, okay? I would probably click a line on the top of that sashing, the very top of my sashing. I'm going to click a line, and then I can use below, or the bottom orientation, it's going to put it right below, right into my sashing all the way.
In previous versions of CS, on the left part of the screen, it gave us pattern properties, project properties, highlighted pattern properties. Where is this information now?
Okay, so the question was, in previous versions of Creative Studio, you were able to see on the left-hand side of your screen, when selected, you could see the pattern properties, project properties, highlight pattern properties, and I said project already, so yeah. So if you want to see that information, now it has kind of moved around a little bit. So I'm going to get out of my text function here. Open up a Clover, put something else. Oh, I look like I have a celebrity guest in the room that just walked in while I'm pulling this up. Come on over, Matt.
Hi, Corey.
Hey, look at the camera.
Hi, everybody.
This is Matt Sherman. This is the designer of Creative Studio.
Hi.
Thanks for stopping by, Matt.
Happy quilting.
So right over here, I've selected my pattern. Okay.
A whole bunch of love, Matt.
I've selected this pattern, and right here at the bottom, I kind of have a quick view of the width, height, and angle of the pattern that I have on the screen. At the bottom left of the highlighted pattern, I have a little eye right here. So if I left click on that eye, left click, it's going to show me my pattern properties window that has everything in there that you're used to seeing, okay, in your pattern properties in previous versions of CS. Or when your pattern is selected, you can press P, as in Paul, on your keyboard, and it will bring up the pattern properties for that selected pattern. Let me go to here. Now the project properties can be found under the project tab. There is a little eye right up here where it says project properties, the eye with a circle. Left click on that, and it's going to open up my project properties for the project name, speed, and their stitch count is also found right here. So the total number of stitches you've taken in the project. Save and any more questions?
Can you import fonts?
Yes. The question was, can you import font groups? So yes, you can come in and import fonts. Under my Patterns tab, I'm going to go to the little Import Patterns icon. And right underneath Import Pattern folder, I have Import Font Group. Any other questions, Liz? No?
Not at the moment that I know of.
Okay. We'll look at a few more things before I get off here. Let's look at, let me grab a different pattern real quick. It's a random one. Go with this one. Okay. So we're looking at probably one of the newer things, probably not, but one of the newer features in CS7 are going to be the universal handles, which are really, really nice when it comes to your custom blocks and your custom quilting. So if I cycle through my handles by double left clicking on the pattern itself, I can double click around, and you can see that I've got these universal handles now that have 3 different handle types all on one pattern. Okay, so I have my edge handles, my center handles, and my stretch handles. So I can use all 3 of those at the same time in the software. So that's a lot of fun. I can take, let's say, the center ones, I can stretch them out. I can come in and pull the edges out. I can take the stretches and stretch those out. I can easily move around what is on the screen.
They want to know where they get the font groups and what format they need to be in.
Okay. Let me come over here real quick.
Repeat the question.
It was a what, Liz? I'm sorry.
I said repeat the question. They
Okay,
want to know
yeah.
about.
So the question was, where do you get font groups and what format do they need to be in? Let me pull that up real quick. So let me look here. When it comes to the font groups and the file format they need to be in, I will get back to you with on that question. I need to actually ask Matt which ones they need to be imported in. I haven't played with font groups enough to know the exact file type for it, but as soon as we get off the live video, I will go ask him right away, and I will put that into the comment section so you know. Okay. So,
Nudge.
nudge. Okay, yeah. The question was to talk about the nudge feature that you've been hearing about. Let me get a pattern in here to show you about that. Yep. Where is that button? I'll use this one. Okay. Okay. So we're going to talk about the nudge feature inside of CS7. Expand this out so I can fill this up a little bit more to get a better idea of what's going on. Okay. So with the nudge feature, if I left click and hold on any one of my anchor types, I'm just using the universal anchors right now. So I'm going to zoom in. Let's say, for instance, I want to get the point of this triangle as far up into the point of this block as I can to fill up the block completely. So if I left click and hold, let's say, for instance, on this stretch anchor, which is our gray one, left click and hold, and I'm going to use my keyboard and press the arrows. So I want to arrow up to go up with the pattern, and it's going to make slight adjustments as I'm pressing. And I'm just left clicking and holding on the handle of my choice, and then using the key on the keyboard that I want. So for instance, I'm using the up key, and I can nudge it. Say I need to go over a little to the left, go up some more, a little bit more to the left, and up some more. So as you can see, I can move the point of this pattern all the way up into that point precisely just by left clicking on the pattern, the handle itself, and using my arrow keys on my keyboard to move it where I need to move. Now also, we can use the nudging with my keyboard as well. I can use what we're used to using is control in our arrow keys. So if I hold control on the keyboard and press my arrow keys, you can see now that it's moving the pattern a lot faster than it used to in previous CS versions. So control with the arrow keys is going to move the pattern a lot faster. If I hold Alt on my keyboard, Alt on my keyboard, and use the arrow keys, it's moving it at a much slower pace to get more fine-tuned adjustments. Let me move it down a little faster so we can see that. Okay. Alt with my arrow keys, moving it at a much slower pace, so I get much more fine-tuned adjustments. And you can just also use the arrow keys if you'd like as well without having to hold anything. So Alt is going to get you some more fine-tuned adjustments. Control with the arrow keys is going to move them very fast, and just the arrow key itself is kind of in between those two.
Quickly, is there a shortcut key to cycle through patterns when you have multiple patterns on the screen?
Okay, the question was, is there a shortcut key on your keyboard to cycle through your patterns with while you have multiple patterns on the screen? And yes, there is. Let me put a couple on the screen real quick so you can see. So if I have a pattern selected, I can use the greater than or less than keys, which is between the letter M on your keyboard and the question mark on the keyboard. And it will cycle through the patterns that you have on the screen. So if you have multiple patterns stacked on top of each other, or echoes even, this plays really good for echoes, you can cycle to the exact one that you want, either delete it, move it, grab it, whatever you need to do. One of my favorite features, and I kind of coined the term for it, is on your keypad of your machine. I'm going to grab my machine. The top right button of the key, the top right button is on your keypad is mode. So right here, we have mode. Okay. So if I press mode on my keypad, you can see that I'm going to get my new mode magnifier, and it's going to scroll through the icons on the screen at the very top of my tool strip, and it's going to blow them up really large. So when I'm on the other side of my table, I can still see from far away directly what I am on.
Somebody wants to know if the cycling through also works for borders. I think he means boundaries.
For boundaries, okay.
Yeah.
The question was, can you also use a shortcut key for cycling through boundaries on your screen? And yes, you can. So let me put a couple of those on the screen real quick so you can see. Okay, so I got a bunch of those on the screen. And to cycle through boundaries on the screen, we're going to use the letters K as in kite and L as in Larry on the keyboard, so either one, K or L. And you can see that it's cycling through the boundaries on the screen in the order that I put them on there, so I can pick the one that I want, move a pattern into, or I can delete them if I'd like, just by selecting that boundary. Let's see another fun thing. What's another cool thing? There's a lot of things to talk about in CS7. Let's talk about copy and paste. So that's a new thing. I think that's really cool. With copy and paste in CS7, you can now copy and paste patterns that you have on the screen into different quilt groups. So previously, you were restricted to, once you had a pattern on the screen that you've messed with, you'd have to export it, save it, open it again in another quilt group. Those days are over. If I right-click on the pattern, I've got copy, which is the second option. I can come into another quilt group, right-click, I've got paste, which is the fourth option. And I can now paste those patterns, but just by left-clicking around, into a different quilt group. And also, if you accidentally exit out of Creative Studio and open it back up, as long as you haven't shut down the computer, that information will stay in the pattern clipboard, in the clipboard, and you'll be able to paste it again once you open up the software. Any more questions, Liz?
Somebody asked about getting the default patterns for CS7 when they first install. I don't know if she doesn't have them at all, or if she's set up a...
Okay. So the question was, how do I get the default patterns when I first install Creative Studio 7? It depends if we're talking about you just set up a cloud account and they weren't there, or they're just not there, period. I'll talk about both different ways, and then that'll answer both questions. If you open up the software first and you see no patterns in there, you haven't created a cloud account or anything yet, you've got nothing in the patterns, we're going to come up to where it says Service at the top of the menu strip, come down to Technical Support, and we're going to come into Database Administration. When I click on Database Administration, I'm going to see here in my database window, probably if you don't have any patterns in there yet, one of these bubbles is going to be red. So what you're going to want to do is probably repair the connection. It's not here because I don't have a red one, but you want to repair the connection by clicking on that, and then come right down here to where it says Reset Database to Factory Defaults, and that will move those patterns in automatically. Now, if you've created a cloud account, when you first create a brand new cloud account, let me get in here real quick. Yeah, so when you first create a brand new cloud account, you will have no patterns in your pattern database because you've created a brand new account. So once you're logged into that account, click on the Import Pattern section and come all the way down to where it says Copy Starter Patterns to Account. You'll left click on that, and it probably will take up to 30 to 60 seconds to import all of those in, but it will pull them into that account where you can use all standard 1204 patterns that come with the software.
Someone also wants to know if all of this information is in the book.
In the manual?
Manual.
We had a question that asked, all the information that I'm going over right now, is it in the manual? Yes, it is in the manual. I've probably put a little ad lib in, but yes, the information is in the manual, and also this video will be saved to Facebook once we stop our live, and you can go back and watch it over and over again.
Are the default patterns keyworded?
Are the default patterns keyworded? Yes. So the question was, the default patterns that come in CS7, are they keyworded? And yes, they are. Let me come into find one real quick. I found the default one. What's the default one? Okay, so the GQS-01 stars and loops. So I opened up the tags for that one, and yes, they do have keywords, loops, stars. Now the types are probably not in there. Some do and some do not have the pattern types already in there, so you can come in and add those different types if you'd like. So this one would be classified as an edge-to-edge pattern. So I could left-click on edge-to-edge to add it in, and then hit save and close, and it would save that in.
Power assist on and off.
Hmm?
Show power assist on and off.
Oh, okay. The question was to see power assist on and off. So right here under stitch at the top of our menu strip, we see that I have power assist on. So I can check mark, I can, to change, to put power assist on, or I can turn power assist off. And basically what that does is it helps you move the machine a little bit more freely, and you're not so held down by the belts as much. Good question, Liz?
What if a pattern isn't keyworded? How do I find them?
If a pattern isn't keyworded? Okay, so the question was, how do you find a pattern if it's not keyworded? You can always search through the pages of patterns that you have, okay? So I'm gonna come in here, for instance, and get out of this that I've got here, okay? So right here at the bottom, it's gonna tell you page 1 out of however many pages you have. Each page of patterns holds 100 patterns, okay? So you can scroll through the pages of patterns that you have, and then you can go find the one that you need in order to keyword it the way you'd like it to.
If I import PBM and it contains the default patterns keyworded as I like, will it import those keywords?
So the question was, if you import PBM and into the software, your PBM database, and it contains the default patterns that are in Creative Studio already, will it add those keywords over that pattern? So if it shows that the pattern has already existed, I do believe, I have not personally tested this yet, but I do believe that it will check and see if there's any different keywords and pull those in and add them to that pattern.
Can you sort patterns without keywords? Can you sort to patterns without keywords?
Can you look for, okay, so the question was, can you basically search for patterns that do not have keywords?
Yeah. Let's find out.
That's actually, yeah, let's find out. I actually have not tried that. So let me search here. I don't believe you can. Let me come in here real quick and try this. Let me see if I have an idea. I like a challenge, so give me just a sec. Okay. Those are going to find out the ones that have that, actually. Never mind, it won't. I don't believe so.
I agree. You're probably right.
What do you say, Liz?
I agree. You're probably right.
Yeah, I haven't. I will search for a way. I haven't thought. I guess I never really thought of that one. So I haven't tried to see if you could search for patterns without keywords. I don't believe you can, though. Yeah, that's a good thought, though. We'll definitely jot that down. That's a really good thought, actually. Thank you for the question. Any other questions, Liz?
I don't see any currently. Do you see any more?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think
Well, I'm going to go ahead and we will go ahead and stop the live. Thank you so much for being with me. I've been here with you for about an hour and a half now. So if you have any further questions, feel free to continue commenting on the video once it doesn't go live. We'll be continuously checking to see if we can help answer those questions. Follow up with us again. Make sure you like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be doing more live events. YouTube videos will also be increasing, different marketing things to help you with education, to help you learn more, help you understand the software more. That is why I'm here. I'm here for you. I'm here to help you learn this software the best that I can and the best that you can. And that is, I'm so excited to be here with you. I'm so excited to be on the Gammill team to help you learn CS, learn the visions, and anything else in that fact. I also do want to say from the bottom of my heart, we're up here in Missouri and down in Texas, as many of you know I'm from Texas, that I wanted to send, and we all want to send our thoughts and prayers down to those that have been, my parents are down south, that have been impacted by Hurricane Harvey down in Texas. So we're sending our thoughts and prayers. We want you to know that our hearts are with you and our thoughts are with you. We love you all very much. Thank you so much for being with me today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.